information. Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Well, following the weekend, I thought we'd follow up with some Fed, and I'm here with Federico, my man from the other side of the wall.
How you doing, fellas? Good to be back, Tim.
My pleasure, Fed. Now, we've got some interesting watches tonight. We're going to talk about them.
Yeah, we really do have some cool stuff on this table right now.
The problem is, it's so tempting to either stick to our questions from the live audience or jump straight to the watches. Bear with me here. We're going to try to split the hair, thread the needle, and give you a little of both. So, this is what Monday Mailbag is all about. A question from Robert M., one of our viewers, asking me, between the Rolex Hulk, the Omega Grey side of the moon, and the Blancpain Bathyscaphe, what should he choose?
Well, Robert actually emailed me this question, and I gave an answer that most of my old viewers probably wouldn't expect.
Okay.
I'm going to say Rolex Submariner Hulk, and I'll explain why. I usually go for the stranger of the picks, something that isn't very common, that not everybody has. The Blancpain would probably be the case if we were taking that as the main consideration, but it's not a watch that speaks to me.
Okay.
And I think the Grey side of the moon is a little gimmicky, in my humble opinion, so I'm going to go Rolex Hulk. It's my favorite Submariner. It's going to hold value extremely well. They're still a little hard to get. It's a classic with a little bit of flair. And that's why that's definitely what I think Robert should pick up, the Rolex Submariner Hulk.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit offbeat because you know I'm a movement guy. And for me, I'll say this. The Hulk as a green watch does tug at my heartstrings. But I will also say that what's inside counts, and while Rolex gives you a workman-like 31-35 tractor, the backside of a bathyscaphe makes up what perhaps the front lacks in pure warmth and emotional appeal, because that caliber 13-15 it's a Blancpain movement. It looks finished to Blancpain standards. 5-day power reserve, free sprung, silicone hairspring. It's tech and it's beautiful. I'll say this though. Would you prefer the bathyscaphe in ocean commitment spec with a blue case and a blue dial?
I would kind of prefer it, but I'm not a fan of the bathyscaphe at all, and that's just my personal take. I like the conventional 50 Fathoms. And yes, the movement, you know, has all those features, but Rolex also gives you a silicone. Well, is it silicone? What do the Rolex call it?
They're not there yet. Parachrome.
Parachrome hairspring. And yeah, I mean, listen, the Blancpain has a much more special movement, a more haute horlogerie movement, but the Rolex will run forever.
That's true. Now, I think Swatch Group, Big Uncle Nick Hayek will back you up, but all the same, he's got a point. A Rolex is serviceable forever. Silicone hairspring, 50 years down the line, who knows? I will say this though, how's that for integrity? We didn't try to sell you the Grey side that we've got on the table tonight.
It's true, we've got it on the table and it's our third pick by the look of it.
Yeah, this one didn't even make runner-up. I'm all about the bathyscaphe, Fed likes the Rolex, and here we've got the platinum dial, ceramic case, Grey side, and no one's giving it the vote.
Let me be clear, I really like this watch, but when my favorite part of a watch is the strap, I know it's not the watch for me to buy. I think it's another limited edition Omega.
I mean, here's the thing. At this point, it's pretty much unlimited. I'd say first year into second year, there was pent-up demand for this watch. I feel like the market is satiated, and at this point we're asking, would you wear it purely on the basis of its merits versus the other two we're talking about? Honestly, this is Miami. We like to get wet. We go in the water. The bathyscaphe is good for it, and so is the sub. This, I think, with 5 ATM water resistance on a leather strap, forces you to own another watch.
It's true. And if you're going to go Speedmaster, which I own one, I'll go classic moon watch all day of the week.
Yeah, okay, so like I said, we didn't try to sell you the one we've got. Guys, welcome all over the world. Thank you for staying up late or getting up early to join us in the live chat box. I can already see I Love Cars, Chicago 7, it's Kibble.
It's Kibble.
Giants fan, time stands still to one Joel, Tom P. Welcome, guys. Noah R, Rami, Don Rogan. Honestly, there's so many of you now, I wish I could give you all a shout out. I'll come back to the chat box because we're going to be doing live questions. But first, interesting question from our man Dustin T out in cyberspace. Watched the last episode. We gave out our email probably too many times. And now we got a list of questions. And he's asking me, what do we think of the Glashutte original 70s panorama date?
That is the cushion. Well, it's almost like a cushion shape.
Yeah.
TV screen dial. I love Glashutte. I think the panorama date doesn't get enough credit because to make those two discs without that separation, to make that complication work, I've been told it takes something like 17 extra parts just for the date mechanism. I could be wrong, plus or minus a couple of parts, but I've been told by Glashutte it's very, very complex.
Yeah.
Glashutte is a great brand. They make about 8,000 or 9,000 watches a year, I'm estimating. Do I like the watch? Yeah, I do. But the 70s isn't necessarily my pick of the litter.
Okay. Well, now this is from Dustin, and he had two elements to this question. First, what do we think of the watch? I like it. I think it's definitely one of the few cases where I would say, even though I'm a strap guy, get it on the bracelet.
Absolutely.
The micro adjust in that clasp is worth the price of admission by itself. It's like a Rolex. It's like something you'll see on a Submariner or a Sea Dweller.
And actually, Glashutte invented that system before Rolex did.
Worth mentioning, and definitely giving Glashutte a few points. We're dancing on the small end of the Swatch production spectrum tonight. Between Blancpain and Glashutte, we're talking, what, like 15,000 watches?
Tops.
Yeah. So if you want to keep it exclusive, but you want to stay within a major group, this is a great option. I also love the fact that there's a blue metallic dial option.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that everything is basically built in Glashutte because all those decades behind the wall, they had to create everything themselves, couldn't import parts from Switzerland.
They even bought a dial factory in 2010, I think they bought a dial factory.
That's true. I think they bought a dial factory in Pforzheim. So if you want to do the tour of German watchmaking, your map just grew. But I will also say this. Dustin asked us to compare it to the likes of AP, VC, and Patek Philippe sports watches.
Ah, man.
I mean, Fed, give him the straight talk on that.
I think the Glashutte is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim,
No, you're right.
the toughest watch there in terms of durability. But if we're talking market price, prestige, collector's value, it's not in the same league.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start comparing German watches to the likes of Patek Philippe and VC, we've got to talk about Moritz Grossmann, Lange & Heine, A. Lange & Söhne. These are German brands that play in that realm of price and finish. And two of them, Grossmann and Lange & Heine, are very small and deserve your time and attention.
Lange & Heine make 30 watches a year.
Honestly, Marco Lang will do things for you. I mean, I'm getting a little off topic here, but he will make a watch that's not in his catalog. Like, do you want a minute repeater with bridges made of ivory from mammoth tusk?
That is gorgeous. I saw that piece in New York. That is really stunning.
Yeah, he'll make it for you. If it doesn't exist, just give him time and money. It'll happen.
Talk about a Federico watch, mammoth ivory, guys.
Yeah.
That's exclusive.
And it's a Tim watch too, because of the movement. So look,
there you go.
We both agree. Marco Lang, you're awesome. But Glashutte Original vis-a-vis AP, VC, and PP, I would say the Swiss equivalents of Glashutte Original are more like Zenith. I would say Zenith, I would say Jaeger-LeCoultre,
Yeah.
I would say Girard-Perregaux. These are brands that have a spectrum of price, complication, and finish. Everything from the mostly machine finished to the entirely hand finished. That's what you'll find in Geo. And the caliber 3947 in the panorama date 70s, it's going to be a very handsome, mostly machine finished caliber. Reasonably tough, accurate, standard 40-ish hour power reserve, automatic winding, but it's on par with like a Girard-Perregaux 3000, JLC 899. It's not a hand-finished movement.
No, it isn't. But it's pretty. I think
is.
for what you're getting, it's very pretty.
It is distinctive. I'll give him that. It's a distinctive movement that doesn't look like the others, even if it's finished with the same techniques.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So, Federico, we had a question from Steve H., and he's trying to weigh a current JLC Reverso small second medium in steel, which is the exact same size as a Grand Tie cased steel Duo pre-owned. The new JLC Reverso small second is $5,900. He can get it for mid-4s. Should he hold out for an older Grand Tie in stainless steel?
In my humble opinion, absolutely. I think the Grand Tie is the most beautiful Reverso case ever made. We've got one on the table in gold.
We're not trying to sell you this one because it's not in that price range. This is the same size of that minute repeater I always tell you guys I'm about to pull the trigger and buy.
Oh, man.
I'm still about to pull the trigger. But the bottom line is that it's a classic size that came about in 1991 with the 60th anniversary Reverso. Before then, 38 millimeters lug to lug was the Reverso. After the Grand Tie, 42.
And they look small, but trust me, guys, even a bigger guy like myself can wear this grand tie size as a dress watch. So I say hold out for the grand tie, and you know what? I think you can definitely get it in the high 3s to low 4s for a very nice example.
As a duo?
Oh, as a duo, no, the normal grand tie.
Okay,
You're correct. I think the duo, we're probably looking high 5s. Low 6s.
But I would say it's worth it because there are two iconic reversos. There's the original hours and minutes, 2 hands signed reverso, as close as you can get to the 1931 first run.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other classic is 1994 to present. They realized you can use the watch as a dual-sided complication. You can have a second dial.
Absolutely, you'll never get bored. One dial's dark, one dial is dark, one dial is light. It's like almost 2 watches. It's very cool.
Yeah, I have one. I love it in the Grand Tie case. Mine's white gold. I got it for $7,500. I'd say if you're willing to stretch your budget a little bit, can't do better than the AM/PM Sun Moon version of the Reverso Duo in white gold. But steel, you can still get it in the 5,000s, and I think that's a modern classic. Remember, we're talking about the same case size for these 2 watches. Somehow it's a wash between them.
But do you agree with me, Tim? Would you go Grand Tie or would you go with the modern iteration?
No, I'd go Grand Tie. To me, it's a case size that was perfect from the beginning, and
Absolutely.
it's timeless. You don't say, oh, that's a new case, that's an old case, especially since their new, quote, medium case size is the Grand Tie.
Well, exactly. And as soon as I think Reverso, just like when I think Rolex, I get a Submariner image in my head. When I think JLC, I get a Grand Tie image in my head.
Yeah, the Reverso Classique, 38 millimeters lug to lug, it's a fine piece if you're Douglas MacArthur, but if you're not a soldier from the 1940s or Amelia Earhart,
A little small.
or Edward VIII, yeah, a little bit tiny. So,
I actually own one of those.
oh, you do? Well,
It
I
was-
compliment you.
I've never worn it. It was handed down from my mother. I've worn it once with a tux. But it sits in my watch box. It's way too small.
Was
for
it
me.
originally an Italian market watch?
I'm actually not sure. You know what? I'll bring it in and you can tell me.
Okay, because now I'm wondering if it was one of those revival watches cased up in the 70s that got JLC to get back to building the Reverso.
I'll bring it in tomorrow. You can tell me all about it.
We're gonna-
Tim's our in-house JLC expert, if you haven't noticed.
Someone just told me I'm giving a talk at a JLC event, and I didn't even know this was happening. So,
It's true. I come in the room. Hey, Tim, you're the guest speaker. You're like, what are you talking about?
yeah, I still have no idea when and where this is going to be because it's being told to me. So when I have details, guys, I'll let you know. But okay, now something for a little bit different. You've been pushing me to make a decision, and not on watches. Federico, what's going on?
Well, you sold your S8.
Yes, I did.
You replaced it with a Chevy Volt, which, I forgive you because you say it's your everyday car, but now you're looking for an enthusiast
Listen
car.
to how he struggles through the rationalization.
Listen,
I agree. I agree.
You need to get something that's not a hybrid immediately. Essentially, or we're no longer going to be friends.
Okay, and that can't happen because I like having Fed here on the show. So I was thinking maybe a car that I consider the most beautiful ever made, and it's the Mercedes-Benz C215 generation, so basically the coupe version of the W220, the C215 CL55 AMG.
Absolutely. It's comfortable. They worked out the kinks. I love anything AMG because it sounds like a rhinoceros in heat.
It does. Maybe 2.
And you know what? I can see you rolling into the office in this big cocoon of luxury with 400 horsepower.
I can tell you that at the wheel of a CL55 AMG, I've done the most illegal things in my life.
In Mexico. not in
Exactly.
America.
I didn't immediately thereafter Google felony speeding New York State. That didn't happen.
We're joking.
Of course we are. But here's the thing. You need an operating budget for one of these cars. And by operating budget, I mean you need to be able to light money on fire. And I'm not sure, I love the watch, but I love the car, I should say. Look, I'm using the word watch. It's like a Freudian slip. That's how much I love this car. But realistically, this is the kind of car where you love it, you have the greatest drive of your life one night, and you come back the next morning and it's sitting sunk to the ground, sitting on its flattened suspension in a pool of its own brake/suspension fluid.
Well, is it a hydraulic suspension?
It is. It's the ABC. It's so good. When it's good, it's so good.
You can replace it with air suspension.
I know, and you can replace it with coil springs, but that's almost like, I mean, that's like with these cars, it's like it's the ABC or nothing. Like it's part of the identity.
Don't give me this whole running cost blabble. This is the same man who owns a Reverso Tourbillon, and he's talking to me about running costs.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm just saying it's economic disaster porn. But let me consider a alternative. My high school sweetheart. We're talking about the great loves of my automotive life. The Viper GTS, the original coupe that won Daytona overall, 24 hours of Daytona, not the NASCAR thing for you foreign viewers. We're not into that. But this was the car that I think made me love racing, like made me love auto racing. And I got a picture of it on our live stream covered in crap from the 24 hours when it won.
I told you to go, leave work, take a long lunch break, and go buy this immediately. And you told me you couldn't ultimately see yourself in it.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I'm a Viper guy. I mean, Viper guys, they're like 6'4" and they bench press 250.
Just put a gun rack in it. You're good.
Okay. Well, I am an American, so that makes sense. So now we're going to talk a little bit about wacky watches, and I think.
Oh man, this is awesome.
Okay.
This is so awesome. But I'll let you know more about it than I do, so I'll let you go with this. But guys, it's in contention for becoming a Federico watch.
Okay, so this is the watch that should have been on the Federico Goes Shopping special we did. This is, and I'm gonna jump right up to the macro camera. This is the Gerald Genta Arena by Retro from the mid-2000s. Really part of the last flourish of the old Gerald Genta manufacturer before it was subsumed into the Borg cube of Bulgari.
You really hate that relationship, don't you?
No, it's great. It's wonderful. They pay me money. I love them. But this watch is completely unique. Tantalum bezel, rose gold case. There's actually a white gold version of this watch, this Gerald Genta watch, that represents probably my best bet at getting a complicated watch that's also green. But this one has a retrograde date, retrograde minutes, jump hour. Unfortunately, the minutes hand is covering it. And on the back, it's got this crazy Potter's finish that they called old gold. It's a GP base movement. So,
which you can tell because the movement's like 60% too small for the watch.
Yeah, seriously. And it's even worse than that because you can see they extended the base plate just to fill up that modest window that's there. But it's gorgeous, and it's Gerald Genta's own module, and they've got 3 patents on it. So this is original watchmaking, design, and rare.
I'll tell you what, if they made the rose gold in green, I would have owned it already.
It's a crazy watch, and it's a wacky watch, and it's also a favorite of mine. If I were ever to stray from JLC, you guys know there's a very, very narrow corridor of watches that I would navigate.
It's true, and actually this is one of those things that gets in contention. You get a whole lot of horology for, I mean, it's not an inexpensive watch, but it's a lot of value. You get bang per buck.
I mean, it's like a $14,000 watch or thereabouts, and it originally retailed for 40-something. So that's true of the white gold, it's true of the rose gold.
And you get a Genta name on the dial. That's got to mean something.
And, jump hours and retrogrades, hardcore nerd watches.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guys, so we're going to step out into the
question time.
The wild waters of the live chat box. Okay, so let's try to kind of sort of go from the beginning so we can get as many as possible. Okay, so question coming from Joe S. This is a good question for our ex-Richemont man. Why are the crowns on Lange and Sona models so low down, so recessed from the front of the case?
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say this, but I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
I've never really noticed it's lower than usual. What do you have to say about that?
It's a little bit of a styling trick to minimize the size of the crown when viewed from the front, but it's not as dramatic as I've seen on some Zenith watches and also some Cartier watches that I've seen in the past.
Or Tag Heuer modular chronos and stuff,
I think it's just something they do so that you look at the dial of the watch instead of getting hung up on the crown. There are a lot of brands that, and actually I'll mention with this Genta, and we keep coming back to this, but this is one example of how you can minimize the impact of a crown on the lines of the case, extend the case. And I think that's kind of what Lange is doing by setting their crown back from the front of the timepiece.
You know what the award goes to, at least in my mind, for a modern. What's the modern watch with the smallest crown you can think of?
The modern watch I can think of with other than like a Cartier Pasha where you'll lose most of your fingernails.
That's what I was gonna say.
I can think of one that's much worse. And it was the T crown on the Bell & Ross Space 3 GMT chronograph. I defy you to get a hold of that crown.
Oh man, when I worked at the Cartier boutique, we had to set the time every morning on every watch. and we do rock, paper, scissors to see who did the Pasha case. Because you'd have no skin on your fingers left.
Yeah, it's actually like a traumatic experience. I don't even know. It's like trying to fumble with like a tendon or a ligament inside someone's knee while the knee is kicking back at you. It's so unpleasant to wind a Pasha. Guys,
Wow,
there's
that's
a
graphic.
I mean, it's gross. It's a pain in the butt. You'll lose parts of your anatomy. Even if we're talking about fingernails, it's still anatomy. And I would say there's a reason why like every Pasha is either quartz or automatic. Just keep it topped off. Don't reach that point. Okay, so we've got a question coming in. Tim, any recommendations on good JLC coffee table books?
Yes, we were just looking at one, and it is awesome.
This is the greatest JLC coffee table book of which I'm aware. This is from the 60th anniversary of the Reverso. We were just talking about how the Grandtai case was a classic. This thing from the early 90s was written by Manfred Fritz, and it is an exhaustive examination of the history of the Reverso. And again, written in the early 90s, it's from the era before the luxury watch was really a thing. And it's also, JLC was like barely coming off the mat after the quartz crisis.
Well, they were still suffering, and the book being from the early to mid 90s, you're going to miss out on some of the more modern models, but that's okay because it's got a lot of really cool technical drawings, old advertising.
Patents, watches that JLC made in the Reverso line during the 80s. I mean, you can't even find some of these pictures on the internet.
Well, Reverso, I did a show about this on my old Federico Talks Watches channel. It's one of the few watches you rarely see vintage because there's almost no such thing as there's either the one from the 30s, and there's a few examples from the 80s, but they skipped the whole era.
Yeah, it's almost like the
Reverso.
IWC Portuguese, where they built like a batch of them in the 40s, and then they pretty much cut off production. It became like a very occasional special order thing.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the 60s, the Reverso was pretty much done, with the exception of a few watches ordered by the Italian market in the 70s.
That's about it. Yeah, pretty much.
And I gotta be honest with you, there also must be a low survival rate because you hardly ever see them. I'll also say this though, this book is awesome and you can get it cheap for what it is. There's also a picture of a pre-Jurassic Park Jeff Goldblum in here. I swear, he looks like he's 5. Worth the price of admission. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I will also say that if you wanted to get a not quite coffee table sized JLC book, Jeter LeCoultre, A Guide for the Collector by Zaf Basha. The ultimate spotter's guide for like 1930s to early 80s JLC watches.
And if you guys can wait until like 2020, we're going to have Jaeger LeCoultre, A Complete History by Tim Massa.
Yeah, let me clarify, 1983 to the present. I figure the 150th anniversary, that's right about where Zaf's book ends. I don't want to redo what he did because he did it well, but my book's going to be 1983 to the present. So the modern era of JLC plus the rebirth of the manufacturer after the quartz crisis. Plus it's going to be available on a little DVD or, I guess whatever the thing is now. Blu-ray, or I guess now it's like solid state memory. So you can get the book and put it on your computer so you don't have to thumb through the whole like mass of it.
And I'll read for the audiobook version.
Plus, when you buy it, you'll get a subscription to the website, which will be accompanying it, so you can get an update every year. As the new watches come up, I'm going to download the catalog in.
It's an ambitious project.
It is an ambitious product, but here's the thing. It doesn't exist, so it needs to be done.
And that's why you're the right man to do it.
Okay, so questions. This is coming from It's Kibble. One question. What do we think of Oris with their in-house movements? What do you see them doing going forward?
First of all, James, how you doing? It's good to hear from you again. He's a good friend of mine from the YouTube community. I really like their in-house movements. I love the long power reserves. I love the decoration. I think it's a hard sell for the price point they're putting them at.
Yeah.
Because when people think Oris, they want to spend likely like under $2,500. We're talking like Oris Aquas territory. But some of these watches are $6,000-$7,000. What do you think?
Well, honestly, I think the price point just doesn't make sense. I think, unfortunately, watches like those... Let me just attack it from a technical standpoint. I like that they're ambitious.
Absolutely.
I like that they're going for the long power reserve. They're not afraid to pair it with complications. I do feel like some of the watches housing these movements look, unfortunately, like those built by other brands. I'm not going to name
IWC.
them. Yeah. I think there's that as a little bit of a downside. The watches featuring these movements are unfortunately a bit anonymous in design, or unfortunately reminiscent.
Still handsome.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it as like a cheap Big Pilot 7-day, maybe that's the way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Pilot is like, what 13,000 retail?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at like an Oris Pilot Big Crown with the 7-day, well, I guess it's 10-day now. The long day the long caliber, it's impressive. I don't know what the timing stability is like, just because a lot of times when you have a single barrel and a really long power reserve,
you lose the torque at the end.
it's just really uneven, and even IWC struggled with that until the latest generation of their 50,000 series caliber.
And the truth is, unless it's been on the market for a little while, no one really knows what an in-house is like until they work out all the kinks.
Yeah, honestly, until the first of these have been through service a couple of times, we're not going to know. So you are sort of Oris's guinea pig.
But, I do love Oris as a brand generally. I really do. I think the Aquas is a great watch. The Arctic's GMT is a great watch. I love their Frank Sinatra limited editions.
The Diver 65, very good
The
looking.
Diver 65, very good looking. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid brand that's coming back, so to speak.
I think right now you have to kind of look at Oris as sort of like a blow-for-blow independent rival to the likes of Longines, not so much Omega. I think with these long power reserves and in-house calibers and prices to match, it's almost like that portion of their catalog is trying to fight a way up-market battle against Omega and the in-house caliber Breitlings.
Absolutely. I can agree with that.
Okay, so a bunch of questions. People are asking, why not an SL500 from that time? Honestly, I just like the look of the CL body.
The coupe.
Yeah, Bruno Sacco's last design that he oversaw. He's actually in that Reverso book, by the way. The Benz design chief, Bruno Sacco. Peter Arcadipane designed it. Australian, working for Benz. Pillarless, gorgeous. I mean, it just looks like it weighs, yeah, it's a 4,300 pound car, but it looks like it weighs about 1,300 pounds.
And 2 extra seats.
Yeah, and decent seats at that. Plus, you lower those pillarless windows and it's like you're in a convertible. With the sunroof open, you're not going to miss the SL500. Plus, I'm not going to lie to you, I've been in those retractable hardtop 500s from the mid-2000s, and when they're a few years old, the mechanism starts to squeak where it joins the window.
And it's expensive to fix. Talk about,
it is.
Service.
It's like you add up all those things that you had on the CL, and then you add a retractable hardtop. But hey, you know what? I love that body style so much, I'm almost willing to take the plunge. And a comment from Adam who's saying that car is so unreliable. Yes.
We're aware. Trust us.
We know. New Alfa Romeo, Oriental Psycho suggesting.
Everybody knows that's one of the front runners for mine, so we're going to go test drive that maybe next weekend.
Yeah. At some point, we're going to do like a car show. We're not going to be like super clever with the way we name it. We're not going to call it like Fast Times or or Watches and Wheels. I'm just going to say like this is the car show with Tim and Fed.
Something like that.
Okay, so Kiki Fries, Tim, Audi is the right brand for you. Check out a used RS5 or S7. I'm feeling that S7.
RS5. Oh, the S7. I love the back on that car. It's so central.
I could wait 18 months for the RS7 to come down though. I mean, here's the thing. You can scare yourself in an S7. In an RS7, you can scare yourself to death.
Yeah, you're going to need diapers in that thing.
Absolutely. Save some money. Okay, so comments coming in. Kiki Fries, Viper is nice. Can't argue with that. Good man. All right.
America.
So many responses on the car front, guys. I'm impressed. Wow, Maserati 4200 GT. Over here,
Talk about reliability issues.
Yeah, over here they were called the Maserati Coupe and the Maserati Grand Sport. I actually like the Grand Sport, but be prepared to pay Ferrari money to fix a car that costs Camry money.
And the clutch only lasts like 8,000 miles.
And unlike the Ferrari, I don't think you can actually check it with a borescope. So
I think our watch guys are probably getting upset that we're so car focused.
Oh,
right
I know
now.
they are. I'm just like looking at the comment box. I'm like, when do we get back to watches? So let's attack Roy Anderson's question. Should I buy a Blancpain 50 Fathoms or keep on feeding my family?
Buy the Blancpain.
Yeah, I would say.
You can always get remarried and have new kids.
Exactly. You can always, exactly, like you said, you can always have new kids or you can get a dog. Trust me, you won't notice the difference. The watch, though, you only ever have that one opportunity.
A watch is forever.
Exactly. And then once you have kids again, you can hand it down to them.
If you choose to have them.
That's right. Or you may not. Okay. So, comment from Oriental Psycho. Federico needs a day date 41. How do you feel?
I would totally wear it. I mean, I totally would love to have one. I just have issue spending that type of money on ultimately something that I don't find unique enough.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's a little bit of a debate going on whether it's a 40 or a 41. The current day date, the big day date, is a 40. The day date 2
is a 41.
Is a 41.
With the older movement, I believe.
That's your 2008 to 2014 day date 2. A little bit awkward, but hey, it did pioneer the ceramic pins and Rolex bracelets.
That's Rolex creating, updating their day date with a new size, realizing, hey, it's a little bit too big, and then killing it off without telling anybody. That's essentially what they did.
Yeah, it's kind of like GM with the Corvette ZR1 or the original Pontiac Fiero or the Cadillac Alante, killing it off just when it's almost ready. But I digress. I said no more cars. No more cars.
No more cars.
Scott Hockenberry correctly notes that the day date 2 would be your 41. Honestly, I feel like the Platinum day date 2 is a watch to watch. I feel like with the 40 millimeter day date, now the brass ring among Rolex day date watches, the original Platinum day date 2 was so expensive. I mean, so expensive.
It's 60,000. No, is that the 36 or the 41 that's $60,000 retail?
It would definitely be the 41 because it's a monster watch. I think if you just take a look at that and track it, it's never going to be cheap, but it might trade at such a discount from where it originally sold that it's worth your while as a long-term speculative venture.
That baby blue, though, that's so beautiful.
It's glacier blue. It's so special. It is a very special watch. You will never regret that purchase. Unless you have to sell a non-redundant organ and then you need it, you will not regret that purchase.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, so Peter North, Benz is overdoing it, Tim. Suggest something more understated like a Ferrari 599 GTB. I suggest that, but in Fiorano spec. Okay, so... Oh boy, we're getting a lot of cars. We struck a chord with this car thing. Okay, guys, there'll be more on the car front, trust me. We got your message loud and clear. Question though from Mason Manning, what are your thoughts on Devon watches?
Okay, so I've worked for an authorized dealer that sold the Devon tread.
Yes.
And I gotta be honest with you. One, the watches sat there for a year. We didn't sell one. Not one. 2, they're a pain in the butt to recharge the battery. And 3, they're not easy to set. And 4, they're quartz, but I can get over that. What do I think? I think it's a failed project. They go through brand president after brand president. They all keep getting fired. It's a cool idea, but it didn't get off the ground.
I can say there are some watches in their collection that interest me, and when you get your hands on them, they feel and look, and frankly are well built. The problem is, more than any other watch I can think of, and Slide, I'm talking to you guys.
Do they still exist?
No. The problem with a watch that's completely proprietary, electronic, and sealed is that if that company ever ceased to manufacture or service the watches, you'd be dead. You'd be stone cold dead in the water.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah, it'd be like owning a Fisker Karma, which I briefly did. You're totally sunk.
You owned the Fisker Karma?
It was so cool.
Such a weirdo, dude.
It was so cool. It was the retrograde jump hour of cars. But yeah, I mean, I like what they've done. Scott Devon, God bless him, tried to build a car first, so he's a man after my own heart. He tried to buy the Dodge Viper factory from. We keep getting back to the Viper.
Man, but it's cool, but it's not worth the headache.
Here's the thing, because ultimately and perhaps imminently it might not be serviceable, I'm borderline saying it's not a luxury product, even though I love that it's made in the US, that a service with Devon takes 2 weeks and then it's back, and that frankly it's a nicely built piece, whether you're talking about the Tread 1 or the Tread 2, but just bozo co-promotion schemes like the Star Wars thing and just straps and fixtures and small parts that don't age well combined with the wholly electronic proprietary nature, I can't ultimately embrace it.
If the company sold more than 20 of them, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
When you're deep into 5 figures and you're talking about a watch that may not be serviceable in 5 years, buyer beware. We're back to like my operating budget for the CL55 AMG, but without the upside. Okay, so this is a question from Brandon. He's asking, hey guys, need some help on a purchase. What would you say to a one watch collection that could rival the 39mm Explorer? So he wants one watch to match a 39 Explorer, but not the Explorer.
There's a lot of choices. In that price realm, I'd go with an Omega Seamaster Professional.
Yeah.
The ceramic one's even nice.
I mean, I will say this, you get a little bit incestuous there, but I'd say something like an Air King or a Milgauss should be on your radar.
Oh, Milgauss is so underappreciated. You can get them for great prices, especially the white dial.
Yeah, I would say seriously consider that because you can get the same Rolex quality, warranty, precision, durability, serviceability, aesthetic, and you're so close in terms of case size and dial size between a 39 Explorer, an Air King 116-900, and then you've got your Milgauss in all of its flavors.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it again, it's a future classic. The Milgauss will be a future classic. It will appreciate down the line. I'm willing to bet.
I guarantee you, 10, 15 years down the line, people are like, damn, I wish I picked up a Z Blue when they were weird and cheap.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. When Rolex makes weird, they go up in price.
Yeah, weird/unpopular Rolex is tomorrow's I'll sell a kidney.
Pretty much.
Okay. Question, a comment coming in from Slashdot, JLC Navy SEALs alarm, hard to beat that watch. I like it. I do feel it's so different from, well, I mean, we're not exactly on the Explorer question now. This is Era asking, what do I think? Buy a JLC Master Compressor Series. Everyone says, if you want to buy JLC, you should buy a classic one. I'm big and tall, what can I do? Yeah, I'd say Navy SEALs for him.
Navy SEALs for him, or even a Master Compressor Chrono, the standard one. Yeah, I know JLC's seen as a dress watch brand, but they do make killer sports watches. They aren't as popular. Fair enough, they aren't as popular, but I think I would buy anything JLC.
I would say consider the Master Compressor Chronograph Cermet. Scratch-proof ceramic case, dual time, chronograph, in-house, 100-meter water resistance. I mean, you've really got everything except a display case back, and frankly, for like a caliber 750 series chronograph, you won't miss it.
It's so funny. You picked the one JLC I don't like.
Yeah, okay. Well, I like it because they have a blue variant, but they also have a black and gold, and they also have a black and red. You have your choices.
But anything JLC, I mean, hell, strap an Atmos to your wrist.
I would say if you don't have to go in the water, consider the Amvox 7 with the quick change strap system.
Ooh, fantastic.
And the radial power reserve. It's a lot like my Amvox 2, only it has the quick change strap system from the Master Compressor Extremes, and it gives you the power reserve from the Master Compressor Extreme Lab 2.
And actually, I just noticed I didn't do a wristwatch check, so I'm wearing, if I can focus on this camera.
Don't worry, there's a learning curve. He'll get it.
I'm wearing a Panerai PAM 111 that's completely out of focus. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for doing that. There we go. So that's what I'm rocking today.
PAM 111, one of those, if you could only have one Panerais.
That's pretty much why I got it, even though I ended up with 3 Panerais.
Again, it's hard to stop at one. Like potato chips in a different era. Okay, so question coming from the Kanthal Kid. Hey Tim, what are some robust mechanicals that would be safe when playing tennis? Ooh.
Richard Mille?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, there's a dividing line, and it's between the extremely, improbably, unaffordably expensive and like a Swatch System 51.
Or what about the Glashutte original Sports Evolution with the shock bumpers?
The Sport Impact Evo. We briefly mentioned it on Friday's show. I would say maybe, but remember, with Glashutte service, it goes back to Saxony if it breaks. Swatch Group US has a major service hub in Secaucus, and Glashutte does not send its watches there. So yeah, you can roll the dice with that watch, and it certainly looks the part, but I think that one's more for high frequency vibrations than huge,
shock.
Yeah, than low frequency, huge amplitude hits.
You gotta love the Germans.
Yep, I will say this though, that's not to say that it wouldn't work, I'm just saying you're really rolling the dice. Of course, if you play tennis with a Richard Mille and it breaks, what are you gonna do?
Well, if you're Rafa Nadal, you just ask for a new one.
Yeah, exactly. So there, if you're that guy, you know what to do. Okay, so questions coming through. We actually had a question that came in from our viewer, Kyle R., asking me what I thought of the JLC, and we've got a graphic, sector dial chronograph. Fed, take it away.
I'm in love. I made a video about this on Federico Talks Watches. I think it's a big winner from SIHH. I will own this watch at some point. It will be mine. I'm totally in love.
That's pretty definitive. I saw the watch at SIHH and I tried it on, and I have to say I like it a lot. Good price. Again, priced around $8,000. Let's face it, in the current watch market, ... you reach your own conclusions. But that's a fair price to start with. 39 millimeters in steel. It's got the caliber, I want to say like 751G. It's part of the 750 family. Like I've got a 750 series caliber in my Amvox. Vertical clutch, column wheel, that's what you want to see. It's like a Rolex Daytona in-house caliber.
The one problem is, while it's not limited edition, I've been told they're only making it for one production year.
I have heard this as well. So if you like it,
you gotta get it. Yeah. You gotta get it. You can't wait, essentially.
I would also say this is the way to do a vintage / tribute watch right. Don't be so literal that it's all reflected glory and it looks exactly like a past watch. Yeah. And I'm talking to you tribute to Polaris, tribute to Memovox, tribute to Deep Sea,
to Jaeger,
tribute to 1931, tribute. Yeah, I mean, too many of those. This is a different thread of JLC design, taking an historically inspired cue, the sector dial, which JLC never really did.
No, Patek's Calatrava is probably the only modern sector dial that's really relevant.
I love that they didn't do it in the past. They've reimagined a sort of neo-vintage style that breaks new ground.
Absolutely.
It's not trying to ape something else, so I think it'll have enduring. We had this whole period of retro design in cars in the early to mid 2000s. Thank you, Chrysler, in the late 90s. That was their legacy. J. Mays at Ford kind of did it to death. But we're having the same kind of phenomenon in the watch industry now.
The PT Cruiser of watches.
Yeah, there are so many like Walking Dead type designs that are so literally tributes to something old. And it's all reflected glory, and when we get sick of vintage design, those things will fall by the wayside. With the sector dial family, the Master Geographic, and the chronograph, JLC has something that's vintage inspired without being slavish, and I love it.
It's one of those few watches that as soon as I saw the picture, I was smitten.
Yeah, and basically, we've heard from a little bird, or a couple of them, that this is not going to be a permanent part of the collection. And
you guys won't be able to buy it at Watch You Want, because as soon as it comes in, I'm buying it. So.
Yeah, there you go. Speak to our friends at Govberg, though.
Yeah, there you go.
So question from Daniel HSC, and this might be one of our final questions of the night, but sub or GMT?
I say GMT. I'm a big traveler. I love the complication. The little splash of green on the GMT hand is cool. I think you get more function for $100 less retail. So for me, GMT all the way.
I got a question coming from Mike Breikovic, who's asking me, what is the ultimate Rolex book? Well, I'm going to say if you've got an unlimited budget, the Rolex Daytona Encyclopedia from Pucci Papaleo Editore. Basically, if you want a book that costs as much as a watch and is actually worth it, look into that.
And actually, Mike is a good friend of mine, so I'm happy you picked up his question. All the Rolex books I've noticed, at least the serious ones, they come out of Italy.
Yeah.
They're all written by an Italian author.
Everything Rolex, Italy may be the most important watch market in the world because it's always first on the vintage trends, and it's often a test market for pilot runs of watches, things that the manufacturers are trying to test. Just like Columbus, Ohio is like the crucible for fast food tests in the US. Like it's where you're gonna see your McDonald's garlic fries first. Italy is like the luxury watch industry's test run. It's like their test track for everything that they might release worldwide.
That's one of the things that makes me proud to be Italian.
Precisely. And also worth mentioning that a lot of the terminology of the luxury watch vintage market comes out of Italy. Okay, guys, Fed, you're looking at the question box here. Do you see anything that strikes you?
Best Rolex book. Well, I like a comment by Rami. I would abolish the Bentley line in the Breitling. So would I.
Yeah, here's the thing. Breitling right now, too many watches that are too big, and I think when people say Breitling for Bentley, I don't want to say that it's like saying Invicta, but it's getting there.
Oh man.
I'm talking baggage. I'm talking stigma.
And on that bombshell, we're done. I think we're leaving it right there.
You end on Breitling for Bentley, you go out with a bang. Thank you so much, guys.
I hope Breitling's not watching.
It's okay, they haven't paid me any money. I'm Tim, he's Federico, she's Faylene. This is What You Want, and thanks for logging on.
Take care, fellas.